Welcome to Sacred Success Salon, where we are up-leveling the conversation about what it means to be successful, redefining it, diving deeply into what it means to be powerful, what it means to live your purpose and claim your prosperity. I am your host, Anna Kowalska, and today I am thrilled to be having this conversation with intuitive coach and author, Monika. See, I already did it. Monika Carless. Welcome, Monika.
Thank you for having me here. I'm so delighted.
Oh, pleasure. Monika is Polish, as am I. So right before we got onto this interview, I'm like, I really want to make sure that it comes across, and at least I can do it in the name. And I screwed it up right away. I love it. Let me introduce you, Monika, to you, and let you know why I'm so excited to have this conversation with her. So Monika Carless is an author and coach. She lives in beautiful Vancouver Island, British Columbia. She's an expert in relationships, including open, poly, and queer relationships, which right there, it opens up a whole beautiful space energetically. She helps people define life purpose, sacred sexuality, and sustainable living. Her coaching addresses the whole individual body, mind, and spirit while delivering clear intuitive insights clear intuitive insights. With worldwide clientele, Monika regards her work as an act of devotion to the consciousness. She has written over 350 articles across various publications. You can find them in The Urban Howl, Rebel Society, Elephant Journal, and Your Tango. Wonderful. She's the author of the Dark Pool Trilogy, a tale of erotica, pagan mysticism, and polyamory. With a background in holistic nutrition, Reiki, organic farming, and developing local food initiatives, Monika's approach to life celebrates the natural cycles, which I love, that govern human evolution. She is a practicing witch and a clear channel for intradimensional being Aiden, and we invite Aiden to contribute if that's what feels right. Monika is also a creator of the Healing Mother Wound through Divine Feminine Wisdom Workshop, a group intensive exploring of our primary human relationship as it relates to the Great Mother. Oh, there are so many points right there that I could have at least 3 interviews with you, Monika.
Thank you. I feel very impressed with myself as you were reading that. I was like, what?
You are very impressive. You are very impressive. And you,
thank you.
yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
And what I admire most is your courage for you to show up in all different flavors that you feel you want to show up in the world. So as I mentioned, we both have similar heritage. We're both Polish, which I was really impressed with when I first met you, because like I just said before we got on the interview, the Polish part of me is not okay having these conversations. It's not okay claiming the variety of energies in which we show up or having esoteric conversations. So I'm really excited about this.
Thank you. I'm excited as well.
Yeah, great. So to get us started, would you please share with us your definition of success?
My definition is fearless authenticity, and I talk about that quite a bit because in my own experience, in what I've lived, in my own life, I find that everything that I've touched, everything that I feel has been successful, as in raising children or writing books or whatever it is that I'm doing in the moment, if I'm not fearlessly authentic while I'm doing that, I can't really define the success in it, because who is it that is coming through? Who is coming through while I'm mothering, while I'm writing, while I'm speaking? It has to be my essence. It has to be the one that has come here to experience this planet. So for me, that's success. It's just really tapping into your fearless authenticity, which may not feel fearless while you're in it. It might require quite a bit of courage, but in the end, it will be defined as fearless.
I love it. So right there, I'm going to dive into that and see where it takes us. How do you know that you are being authentic?
When I'm not seeking anybody else's approval except of my own. So I'm asking myself questions that I can answer honestly, and I can listen for that cue in my body and in my psyche and in my emotions, that is, saying, it's like, it's your inner guide is saying to you, yes, you are being authentic as you're answering this question, or you're hiding something. And you always know it. You always know it in your body if you're not being authentic, if you're not sharing yourself from a pure place. So I don't know if I answered the question, but that's my answer.
I love that. I love that. And we're having a lot of conversation in this in a salon about knowing how to know in your body what's right, and having a good relationship with your body where you can trust. So is this a feeling that you get? How does it feel for you when you are not being authentic?
Well, first of all, it takes time. Like, it takes time and practice to understand yourself in that way. And you have to have patience and be kind to yourself and know that, sometimes you might not be getting the signals. Sometimes your intuition might not be, completely open. And that's, not even our fault, because we're always taught not to trust our intuition, right? We're taught that intuition is bad because it's going to take you down the road of chaos and there's not going to be any structure. And what are you talking about? So, it takes time to learn the cues from your body. For me, it's a gut feeling. Starts in the gut and it travels up to my throat. And then I have this thing that I say to my partner, when we're having a discussion, and sometimes what I'm saying is uncomfortable, and he might say, oh, I can see him kind of like cringing and saying, oh, I wish you weren't saying that. And our joke between ourselves now is, I have to say it or my throat chakra is going to blow up.
Yes.
So really listening to those energy centers in your body, and for everybody it might be different. Like, a client of mine feels it in her anus.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, wow, that's, because that's where her groundedness is. And she's like, when I'm not being authentic, when I'm not listening to intuition, that's where I feel it. I feel like everything's going to go badly from there on in. So you really need to know yourself. You need to know. I just said anus on your salon.
I love it. No, that's great. And I'll tell you why, because our conversation will get into sexuality for a very particular reason, because it's a creative energy. We cannot not talk about it. It's at the power center. Hello. Yeah. So, and I knew our conversation would be so juicy. What you just gave us is a permission to honor all feelings in all parts of our body, right? Like, anus is a part of our body that most of us, like, I mean, it's just been so, like, forgotten, shamed, and right?
Yeah. And because it's like the most powerful muscle on the body, if it's, if you're really like being clenched and whatever, and that you're not releasing, you're not speaking your truth, and then people say, well, you're being anal. Well, there's a reason for that, because our emotions, our deep emotions, tend to sit around there in the grounding, in the first chakra, where our groundedness is, where we're grounded within ourselves, and where we know our purpose as a being, why we came here to be human, to honor our spirituality, but also to honor our physicality at the same time.
Yes. Oh, this is just so perfect. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Oh, I love that. See, it goes where it needs to go. I love this conversation. So let's dive into the sexuality, and you merge divine masculine and divine feminine so beautifully when you speak about our sexual expression. And the reason why I'm bringing it in is because, and I want to say it, I'm sure our audience, I'm sure you guys are familiar with this to a degree, but my first experience of sexual power as a creative power was when I read Think and Grow Rich. And I think it's chapter 7 where Napoleon Hill talks about the sex transmutation. And that opened up a door to a whole new world around what being sexual means outside of just having sex.
Right?
Yes. Yes. So I want you to talk about that.
I know. Well, first of all, going back to the Poland thing and being like, I was raised, when I was in Poland, it was still a communist country. And I was raised by my grandmother because my parents had passed away. And there was this whole, if you wanted to talk about something, you went to church and you talked to the priest, and then he gave you your ideas. Like he told you what you should be thinking and how you should be thinking, right?
Yes.
I find, like, you're laughing, but I find it comical now as well.
Right? I'm laughing because I know it. I lived it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once I was adopted into actually it was my aunt and uncle who adopted me, and so they're Polish as well. And then the same kind of culture and cultural thinking was passed on, where you're not going to talk about sex, obviously. Mm-hmm. You're not going to ask any questions, and you're not going to think of yourself as a sexual being, because you should be a spiritual being, and your physicality is something that, we're just going to keep on the down low.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so of course, being a Scorpio, Scorpios are, very intimately connected to their sexuality, and we're all about, transformation, life, death, rebirth. So for me, I wanted to ask those questions. I wanted to talk about sexuality. I wanted to know why my sexuality also seemed to kind of coincide with my creativity. And it took me years to figure that out, and years to explore that, or even give myself permission to explore that. But you don't have to be sexually active. You can be celibate. You can still tap into your sexual beingness and into your creativity. Like, it's not just a physical expression. And if you want to be physically expressing it, then great. Like, we're here to be completely human. And I think that a lot of times when we are also expressing our spirituality, people are annoyed or offended if we're also completely human and we're honoring our body and our sexuality.
So can you just for a second go into, and you can go as deep as you want to, the creative energy and the sexual energy? Like, how do they're in the same chakra, right? How does it work for you specifically? How are they playing together?
So first of all, how that works for me is acknowledging the fact that my sexuality and creativity are one and the same. And that it's not a taboo either to be creative or to be sexual. I like to talk about the divine feminine and the divine masculine as one, because I think we're so focused now on dividing them and saying, okay, well, now we're going to talk about the divine feminine, now about the divine masculine and the differences, but they really cannot coexist without each other. Yeah. And it's not a codependence, it's a co-creative exercise that they're involved in. They need to feel each other's energy. They need to be together, in order to create anything. So everything in the universe has been created by this amazing dynamic. And so because we are the universe, and because we are the creators and creatresses of our divine plan, we can't really separate ourselves as a physical being or a spiritual being. It's all, it's all one energy that is flowing together. Yeah. And so for me, my creativity springs from the fact that I acknowledge my sexuality. I acknowledge my passion. I acknowledge my lust. I acknowledge the fact that I'm a wild woman. And when I tap into that energy, my creativity explodes. It's no longer, partitioned. Today, I'm going to be Monika the writer. Tomorrow, Monika the sexual, goddess. Yeah. I'm doing it all at once. But I think that the main thing is giving ourselves permission to see ourselves that way.
To see ourselves as the all-encompassing. Yeah.
We are the masculine and the feminine all in one, that we are sexual and we are creative, that we are also spiritual. And, I don't know why, but everybody wants to put spirituality over here and sexuality over here. I just don't see how you can separate them. Like, I just don't understand how one can exist without the other, because if you look at flowers, or anything in nature, you know, let's say, for instance, a flower and a bee, that is a very sexual dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And they're creating something together. And it is also a very spiritual experience for both of them, for the flower and for the bee. You know, they're pollinating, they're giving of themselves, they're creating something new out of that. They're making this juicy honey after that, you know. So I think that we have to also see ourselves as, you know, these sexual beings who are also creative beings.
Mm. What gives you permission, like you personally, what gives you permission to constantly step into that place?
I don't like how I feel when I don't give myself that permission.
Mm.
I don't understand myself when I don't give myself that permission. I know that I am not living the purpose that I came to live. So I give myself that permission. And I think that that's the problem, is that we've been asking permission from out there
Mm-hmm.
instead of going inward and allowing that permission and seeing ourselves as we really are, instead of, you know, we get caught up in the conditioning, right? Which is okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's all a journey and we're all in the process of it, and we're all learning how to get through whatever our conditioning is, cultural or emotional or experiential, you know, relational. But in the end, the only thing you're left with is your relationship with yourself.
Mm.
And so it all comes back to self. It all comes back to the work we do with ourselves and the conversations we have with ourselves. So for me, when I realized that, I mean, I was in a relationship with my adoptive mother for a very long time, until I was 55.
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't a lot of permission or acknowledgement or being seen happening there. My best teacher ever, I love her and adore her, and we have a great relationship now that, you know, she's moved on, she's transitioned, and I can see her gift so clearly now that she's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that that permission wasn't going to come from there, and I had to find that permission for myself, or I literally was going to die. Like, I literally felt that if I didn't tap into my own power and my own, you know, my own empowerment and my own empowered walk on the planet, I literally would just pass away from something. Like, something would occur where I would pass away because I couldn't express my authenticity. So for me, it was a very, very deep and very urgent thing. And also because I was coming towards my second Saturn return,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, this is it. Like, I need to step into myself. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So is that when you deepened or your relationship with yourself, and how did the books come about? Let me ask you that way. Like, how did the books come about? I mean, that's to in the world that we live in, it's still like a bit of a taboo topic, right?
Mm.
Not as much, but it is, right?
You know, and I'm still getting the mail that says, oh, you know, I thought you were a spiritual person. Why are you writing about that? You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the book started actually as a channeled little message. I was sitting at my computer. I had no intention of starting a book in that moment. I think I was checking my email, and then I just automatically clicked into my Word, and I started writing a chapter. And then I realized, hey, this is going to be a book.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my first kind of channeled experience.
Yeah.
Actually, I had others before, but not in that sense. And so I set it aside, and I was very, very busy in those days, pretending to myself that I was busy. Like, I mean, I was doing a lot of things that I was, we had a little homestead, and I was growing all our own food. I was looking after my elderly mom, which took a few days a week. You know, children were growing a partner, you know, like all these things that I was very busy with. And then when my mom was near the end of her life, like in her last year, I pulled it out again and I started playing with it. And I realized, this is what I came to do. and this is going to have to come out. And then when my mom passed away, I went to Kauai for a month with my daughter, and then my other daughter joined as well. And that was my just laying in the ocean and healing, crying, doing, you know, a lot of healing and crying for a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came home and it was on. Like, I knew I had to write these books.
Mm-hmm.
And it was difficult. Like, it was difficult because I knew I was going to expose a side of myself that people might not want to see. They don't want to see you writing like hardcore erotica. They already have an idea of who you are and who you should be.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, in the process of that, I ended up moving to the west coast of Canada, where I felt the energy matched where I was headed a little bit.
Yeah. The new part of you.
Mm-hmm.
So there, because of the conversation we're having, I'm sure there are at least one viewer that is watching us right now that is probably hiding part of themselves, right? That, I mean, that's the reason I find that people don't live on purpose, is because they feel ashamed and embarrassed. I mean, yours is definitely the most taboo that I've come across, right? Like writing erotica books as a spiritual person, like that's really challenging a lot of our perception of the world. But I'm sure there are people who are watching that have parts of them that they feel like it's taboo, that they feel like they're ashamed of, like this very Neptunian, you know, dark things that they are afraid to tap into. So what was it like for you? I mean, this is what I'm hearing, and this is just my perspective of it, right? So tell me if I'm wrong. Your mom passed, which, tell me if it's a coincidence, but it's almost like the book couldn't show up until your mom has transitioned. Is that the case?
I couldn't show up until she passed. And I have been telling people that I knew my liberation would come when she passed. And people kept saying, oh, no, that's wrong. You're still going to be trapped in whatever you're trapped in when she's gone, because you haven't done the work. But I knew myself. I knew what needed to happen. I know it sounds terrible, but I knew that we needed to be separated in the third dimension. Like, I knew that she needed to transit to her dimension, and I needed to stay in this one and do the work I had to do. Part of it was not wanting to hurt her, which I see now as like this codependent thing I had with her, but I knew that she would never understand it. And, you know, and I kept myself small. Now I know not to do that, but I didn't know that then. So the books came out, and I was, you know, I started, like, in the books, I'm using words that people don't want to hear, you know, resurrecting words that have been sabotaged by the immature masculine, and that I wanted to resurrect and claim back for ourselves. There was a lot going on where I, you know, a lot of me was coming out. I came out as a queer woman, you know, person who was interested in polyamory, in a very traditional and supportive and loving relationship. You know, there was a lot that was coming out at the same time, you know, and it wasn't just like, but I was in a place where I just didn't care anymore. I knew that my integrity was my compass. And that is the way to your finding your purpose. Every single time is your integrity. That is your compass. If you're not following your integrity, then there's a lot of things we can do on the planet, a lot of gifts that we have, but there's this one thing, you know, that we are meant to convey through our experience, through our mouth, through the way we live our life, that nobody else can convey. And that integrity is that compass that's going to take us there every single time.
What's your definition of integrity?
Oh, you keep asking me these questions.
Well, because I agree with you, and it's such a big word, integrity, and I use it a lot with my clients, and I'm curious because I'm just curious.
No, it's a great question. Because you can say, well, somebody is honest, but you can also say that somebody has integrity, and they're not exactly the same thing. Integrity is knowing yourself. And that is the deepest work that we have on the planet, is really knowing ourselves. So integrity stems out of everything that you decided that you wanted to accomplish on this planet. And unfolding into that is a process. But you can ask your body and you can ask yourself, your greater self, that lives in many dimensions at once and in many lifetimes at once. You can ask yourself, what is my integrity? What is it that guides me? What is my light? You will get the answer. The reason why sometimes we don't get the answer is because we're afraid of who we're going to be when we find that answer, because things are going to change. And things are going to explode. When I initiated myself, I'm a solitary witch. When I did my initiation, the one thing that I knew was that I should not do this initiation unless I am willing for everything to come crashing down. For everything to break down, take me down to my ashes, and for me to have to rise again. And if I wasn't ready for that, then I had no business doing the initiation. And that is with any initiation in our life, like whether we want to write a book or we want to work with a new client. It can be something very small, whether we want to go out to the store because we've been housebound because we're afraid of everything out there. It can be anything. Any initiation step that we take, every time we're on that edge, where we have to step off and become our new self, there is a degree of fear because you're leaving something behind. And you know that you're going to have to step into this new person. We're already familiar with this person. What's going to be over there, So, yeah.
That was so much depth into what you said and so much truth in it. I'm going to say power because truth is such it's I don't even want to bring it in because I'm changing my definition of truth, but
yeah, it's pretty subjective, right?
Yes, totally. Even my truth is like, what is it right now, right? But what you said, I felt it so deeply is when you, and we're having conversation about a sacred success and stepping into our purpose and claiming our power. And so often we really do, and I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of people who are watching, I'm sure, there is this part of our human that's really not stepping forward because we know on a very, very deep level, like, I don't want to end this relationship. I don't want to end this job. I don't want to end this business. And we know that that's what has to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what you just said was just so, it was powerful. It's like something will have to happen. Like, there is no way you can stay who you are, living the life that you do live, and have what you want to have and be who you want to be. Like, it's impossible.
But it's just going back to the basics of remembering, hey, I wanted to come here. I chose to come here. There was a reason why I wanted to come here. And somewhere along the way, we lose that remembrance that we actually chose to be here. And there was a purpose to that choice, and that there is no amount, there's not enough numbers in the universe to express how unique we each are, and what it is that we came to bring forth. And we're like, well, how important can that possibly be? What can little old me do or little old me say? And it doesn't even matter if it's something, we don't all have to cure cancer. We don't all have to do anything that is going to change a whole planet.
Right.
Just be yourself, just be yourself, because that is the thing, that is the core of what creates a healthy, happy planet, is being ourselves, following our integrity, following our path, knowing that we are here with purpose. If we weren't here with purpose, it would be physically impossible for us to manifest into a physical body. That purpose had to be set. Okay. Otherwise, none of that transit period through the womb from ether to physical world would ever happen. There has to be a purpose, and that purpose is you. That's it. You are the purpose.
Oh. That is so beautiful. Yes, right? Because nothing in the universe exists without a purpose, right? If it exists, it has a purpose, whether it's a thing or a person, right?
Yeah, because that's
Yeah.
the way the universe creates. There's an intention, then it's spoken, it becomes something, and then you are born. And everything is created the same way with that intention.
Wow.
So, and knowing that we are also the creatresses, you know, that's really empowering. Like, we're here to do something, you know, just even just to be is incredibly powerful. And that gave me a lot of courage. Like, it gives me a lot of courage to do things that I'm afraid of, as in being on video. I absolutely hate it.
Oh, and you are so beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for overcoming your fear to be here on the salon. Yeah.
It's my latest stepping into my authenticity.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. It's wonderful. Can we speak for a moment about, because you're doing all this body of work around the mother wound and your own experience of, I mean, your mom had to, how terrible, not terrible, it is what it is, right? But I know that it happens for a lot of us. I mean, I just wrote to my tribe a couple weeks ago about how I had an experience where my mom said, we're going back to, my parents are now in New York, in United States. And my mom said, oh, soon we're going to live in Poland. And all I heard was, they're moving back to Poland. And for 5 days, I didn't clarify it. For 5 days, I lived my life. What will happen when they do, when they're no longer close by? And I still lived in New York as well. And for 5 days, I lived in this like, imagine life. Oh my gosh, this will happen. This will happen. And then I asked my mom, what did you mean exactly? And my mom was just kidding that the way that the politics was going, it was going to be like Poland back when we were in Poland. And my world came crashing down. And this world that I was building for 5 days. And that was a huge indicator for me that there was something there, that my perceived connection to my parents, a codependency, was stopping me from doing. And soon after, things started to progress. But that I know it's true, and I know it's true for a lot of other people, that they love their parents very deeply and they don't want them gone. But there are parts of them that cannot be until their parents transition. So can you share any wisdom for people who are where you were, where you knew your mom had to transition for you to be who you truly are? Can they do something?
Well, part of me is, you know, part of me at that time was completely disempowered because I was really fixated on that thought. Even though I knew that there was truth in it, I knew that this is when I was going to allow myself that space to completely be embodied, you know, to completely take all the space that I was supposed to on the planet. That it was also a story I was telling myself. And so while we, you know, my mom and I did this dance, you know, and things that she asked of me emotionally, you know, that I was not able to process with her because we couldn't have a sane conversation. Like, we couldn't have a conversation where I would say something and then she would not react, but just reply, you know, and then we could just go on and solve the thing. I knew that there was no sane conversations to be had, and I felt trapped in that. I felt that, okay, since you can't have a sane conversation with me, obviously I'm either going to remove myself from you or you're going to remove yourself from me. And I couldn't remove myself from her because I was a good daughter. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I was a good daughter, and I had already pledged in my heart, in my mind, that I was going to be there for her until the end of her days. So obviously I can't remove myself from her. So could you like kind of hurry it along and remove yourself from me? Which was very disempowering. But that was the truth of it, though. That was the reality. The reality was that I knew that this liberation of myself would happen when she was gone. So, you know, what I say now to people, what I say now to myself is, take small steps. Take small steps to your empowerment. Take small, if it's impossible, like many people have narcissistic parents or a narcissistic mother or whatever, and you know that there's no way to make that work because they can't, a narcissist cannot see themselves. They just can't see themselves, you know? So just take small steps. baby steps, little things that you think you can do for yourself to empower yourself, or you can decrease that codependency. And, just try something, like do something, and what I found is when I took little steps with my mom, she would transform. Even if I didn't tell her that I had transformed myself, she would start transforming, because we're all energy and it's all connected, right? So, near the end of her death, she became so open and she wanted to speak to me about so many things. And it was just incredible to see how, because had more compassion for her,
Mm-hmm.
she started opening up. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So,
yes.
We can be trapped in that cycle, but at the same time, we can have clarity about it. We can say, hey, I'm in this right now. I don't know my way out, but at least I can see that I'm in this cycle with my parent.
Mm-hmm.
And what small step can I take to empower myself right now?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be anything big, and it doesn't have to be in their face either.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's really. I want to ask you one more question. We're so coming to an end of our conversation, which is tragic, because seriously, I could have 3 interviews with you on all the things that I want to dive deeply in with. But can you just shed a little bit of wisdom, as our like closing? How do I want to ask this? Is there what can we do? What can we do to keep our masculine? I'm going to go back to masculine and feminine. Okay. What can we do, just like a simple thing that maybe we can start tapping into, to merge our masculine and feminine within us, to help us create what we want, the success we want to create out in the world? Is there anything simple you can share with our viewers that they can start doing from where they are?
I think the best place to begin is to understand what the traits or the archetypes, personal archetypes of each are. Mm-hmm. So for instance, the masculine is more action-based. I hear a dog.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's okay. So the masculine is more action-based, more assertive, and the feminine is more receptive, more nurturing, more intuitive. Not that the masculine isn't those things, but understanding the traits of each first, so that we know where we need to balance. Because if you don't know what it is, then you don't actually understand what it is that you need to balance within yourself, right? And not discarding one or the other, not saying, oh, that's the masculine, it's bad, like we're not going to do that over here. Yeah. Understanding that both are part of ourselves and you can't really discard it anyway, so understanding what the traits of each are and seeing where is it that I need a balance, like what can I do to increase, maybe I'm doing so much intuition and chaos on this side, but it would do me very well to have a little bit more action and more assertiveness. Or I'm too much in my masculine and I would like a little bit more intuition, or a little bit more chaos, a little bit more emotion, and just finding that sweet spot in ourselves. And it's a work, like it's a process, like everything else, so not being frustrated that you're not getting it or not understanding it. Just start with the basics and explore it, have fun with it, and understand that it's all just, yeah, it's all just one thing within ourselves, and we're always trying, because we present like, oh, I'm a woman, so I'm the feminine. Mm-hmm. Well, there's lots of parts of me that are quite masculine, and, I'm part of that energy. And so just because I present as a woman doesn't mean that I'm, abandoning the masculine part of myself.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. See, that's like a whole other interview right there that I would love to have with you right now. And especially with you, because you are so open to and accepting of all parts of you. So, and we might actually have a whole other conversation I'm going to be inviting you to, because it's so powerful. So I know you have a gift for our viewers. Could you please share with us what it is?
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's a workbook, and it's part of my Healing Mother Wound Through Divine Feminine Wisdom. It's a group workshop that I put on, and the workbook is just a little taste of how we can ground ourselves and understand ourselves in terms of mother wound. And, mother is our primary human relationship, and it affects everything else in our life. So the workbook is just like a few questions and a few kind of prompts that kind of gets you thinking about, what areas of my life can I see through the mother wound kind of filter and see what I can, what I can work on for myself, so it's just like a little bit of an exploration.
I love that. So would it be too much of a stretch to connect? Because there may be some viewers who are like, well, I love my mom. I don't have a mother wound.
Yeah.
Would it be too much of a stretch to invite those of you who may think that to say, hey, Mother Earth is your mother as well?
Exactly.
If you have a connection, the wounded connection to your mother, which Earth is a source of, is a resource, right? Like if we connect it to the earth in my world, like this is where resources come from.
Yeah.
So since we are speaking of money and a whole new level of success, but also claiming prosperity, having a healthy connection to the Mother Earth is super important, right?
Yeah, that's the whole work is, the work is not just with mother, it's also with great mother, which of course we are all those things. If you're a daughter, you're part of great mother, you're part of the mother everything, so yeah.
Oh, I love it. It's so beautiful. So claim the gift. It's right under this video. No matter what your relationship with your mom is like, it doesn't matter, because you're healing and looking at all sorts of layers of your mother, your possible mother wound. So
and your relationship with yourself most.
The
biggest part of mother wound is your relationship with yourself.
Yes. Oh, that's like a whole other can of worms right there that I'm going to open up at some other time for sure. Oh my gosh, it's so rich and it's so beautiful. Monika, I so appreciate having you here. Yeah.
Thank you. It's been wonderful and very healing for me as well.
Oh, good. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So how can our viewers find you if they want to learn more about you?
So you can go to MonikaCarless.com and you can pretty much find out anything you need to know and don't need to know about me there. My books will be there. My blog is there. The Healing Mother Wound link is there. Whatever you need, it's there. Just a MonikaCarless.com. Very simple.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And you guys, if you are at all interested in exploring the power of sexual energy and connecting it to the spirit part of you, the Dark Pool trilogy is just so powerful. Really, it really is. So go find Monika and learn about her work. Claim the gift below this video. And as we part our ways, Monika, I do have a question, a two-part question for you. So what would you like to say right now to yourself 5 years ago?
5 years. I'm just thinking about where I was 5 years ago. It was when my mother had transitioned.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I would say to not be afraid of my future self.
Don't be afraid of your future self. Wow. That's quite unique. Oh, it's great. Okay, and part two. What would you like to hear from your future self? So yourself 5 years into the future, what would you like to hear from that Monika today?
That I am held, that I am honored, that I am seen, and that I have purpose.
Wow. Oh, that was so beautiful. So absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Monika, again, for your wisdom, for your energy, and for your courage.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a pleasure for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And you guys make sure you go claim the gift, find Monika, and we'll see you at the next conversation. Bye for now.
Bye.